In the twilight realm between wakefulness and slumber, Emily found herself ensnared in the tendrils of a terrible nightmare. A nebulous landscape stretched out around her, its formless contours shrouded in oppressive darkness. Emily was running, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of her desperate footfalls. Somewhere in the void, an unseen terror lurked, its presence felt rather than seen. It was a formless specter, a shadowy embodiment of fear that gnawed at the edges of her awareness. It pursued her relentlessly, its pursuit a chilling echo in the silent expanse. The air was thick with her panic, each breath she drew in a ragged gasp. The sound was a harsh counterpoint to the whispers that seemed to slither through the air, the words an incoherent murmur that underscored her growing dread. Every footfall echoed with impending doom. Her breaths came in ragged gasps, the sound intermingling with the ominous whispers that slithered through the air. Amidst the chaos, a familiar voice cut through the nightmare's fabric. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as the sounds of her terror-stricken dream world fell away, replaced by the soothing cadence of her mother's voice. It was as if a lighthouse had appeared in the middle of a stormy sea, guiding a lost ship to safety. Her mother's voice held a desperate urgency that Emily could feel vibrating in her bones. It spurred her on, pushing her forward through the twisting corridors of her subconscious terror. Each word was a lifeline, a beacon illuminating the path ahead. But even as her mother's voice provided a semblance of comfort, Emily suddenly found herself standing in the confines of her own room. A place that should have been a sanctuary was now tainted by the nightmare. The once familiar surroundings twisted and distorted, the covers on her bed contorting into grotesque shapes, mirroring the unseen pursuer. Dread coiled around her as the boundaries between dream and reality blurred. A disconcerting realization gripped her. A sinister force had infiltrated the very fabric of her dreamscape. This was no ordinary nightmare. It was a malevolent entity, an unseen predator that prowled the twisted corridors of her subconscious, distorting familiar surroundings into a horrific tableau. The darkness around her grew denser and thicker, an oppressive cloak that seemed to seep into every crevice of her mind. It was as if her dream had been doused in black ink, blotting out any semblance of safety or comfort. The sinister force was not just pursuing her, it was closing in, tightening its grip on her reality. In her desperation, Emily sought refuge, darting through the twisted paths of her nightmare. But escape seemed elusive. The darkness was relentless, a relentless pursuer that played a cruel game of cat and mouse with her terror. Despite the fear gnawing at her, Emily refused to succumb. Gathering her resolve, she spotted an escape, a glowing light amongst the darkness, her window which had an angelic calming light that seemed to pulse. With trepidation, Emily approached the portal. As she peered beyond the threshold, the nightmare began to lose its grip. The window, the solitary beacon in this realm of terror, was her only hope. The ethereal glow pulsated, almost in rhythm with Emily's own frantic heartbeat. It was a siren's call amidst the sea of darkness, promising an end to the relentless pursuit. This must be what her mother was urging her towards. With every step towards the window, the tendrils of the nightmare loosened. The whispers of her pursuer grew fainter, the oppressive atmosphere less suffocating. The window was her salvation, an escape route from the labyrinth of dread that was her dreamscape. As Emily neared the window, the glow intensified, illuminating her path, showering her face in an orange glow. Her fear was replaced by a sense of urgency, a desperate need to escape. The nightmare was losing its hold, but Emily knew she couldn't afford to linger. With a final glance over her shoulder, see the inhuman figure, she made her leap of faith. As she jumped from the window, the air rushed by her until she met the hard concrete below. Lurching up from her bed, drenched in sweat, Emily looked around her familiar surroundings of her bedroom, everything in its place now. She turns to see her window was illuminated. The cold light of reality pierced through the remnants of her nightmare, casting long, ghastly shadows across the room. Her heart pounded in her chest, the rhythm echoing the ticking of the clock on the wall. The silence of the room was a stark contrast to the cacophony of the hellish nightmare that still echoed in her mind. Suddenly a gust of wind swirled behind her, causing her to whip around. The inhuman figure from her nightmare, a shapeless horror that had chased her through the corridors of her subconscious terror, now stood in her room. A chill ran down her spine as her mother's voice echoed once more in her mind, but this time, it urged her to jump. Opening the window, Emily threw herself out the window, only to realize that this was not a dream, but rather it was reality, and there was no going back.